Those trees were blocking our lake view. That was what Vanessa Caldwell said while standing beside 12 fresh stumps on my property. Not storm-damaged trees, not diseased trees, 12 mature pines my father had planted more than 30 years ago. Gone. A tree service crew was still loading branches when I pulled into my yard. I got out of my truck and looked at the foreman. Who authorized this? He pointed at Vanessa. She did. Vanessa folded her arms. The HOA restored the shoreline view corridor. This isn't HOA property. It affects HOA property. That's not the same thing. She smiled. You should be thanking us, Jack. Your land finally has a view. I looked through the opening she had created. Across the road, $6 million Silver Ridge homes now had a perfect line of sight over my property to Lake Hartwell. Vanessa thought she had won. What she didn't know was that those trees were the only reason I had delayed building something the county had already approved 6 months earlier. Something 20 feet high, something 120 feet long, and something made almost entirely of dark steel. 6 weeks later, Vanessa came running toward my construction site screaming, "You can't put that there." I climbed down from my forklift. Behind me, the last steel panel was being bolted into place. The lake had disappeared from 6 expensive living room windows. I handed Vanessa a stamped county permit. She stared at the issue date, then at the wall, then back at me. "You planned this before the trees?" "Yes." I pointed toward the stumps. "I was going to move it to save them." Her face changed. That was the moment she understood. She hadn't cleared my land for a better lake view. She had cleared the exact footprint of the thing that would erase it. "You wanted the trees gone, Vanessa." I looked up at 20 feet of dark steel. Enjoy the view. But that still wasn't the moment she lost everything. Because Vanessa did what people like Vanessa always do when the facts stop helping them. She called someone with a badge, then someone with a clipboard, then someone from the county. And for about 45 minutes, she actually managed to stop construction. That was when things got interesting. My name is Jack Mercer. I was 51 years old, and I owned 27 acres along the northern shore of Lake Hartwell. My father bought the property when I was 14. Back then there was almost nothing around us. A gravel road, 3 fishing cabins, an old marina a few miles east, and trees, pine, cedar, oak, a thick line of them between our workyard and the water. My father, Daniel Mercer, ran a small marine construction business: docks, boat lifts, retaining walls, shoreline repairs. I grew up carrying lumber, grinding welds, greasing trailer hubs, and learning every possible way aluminum can cut your hands. By 25, I could build a dock from a sketch. By 35, I was running crews. By 42, Dad handed me the company. Mercer Marine Works was never glamorous. We had 2 work trucks, a flatbed, a compact excavator, a welding shop, stacks of aluminum framing, steel posts, dock sections, pontoons, pallets of hardware, a fuel tank, and enough half-finished equipment to make a realtor cry. That was why Dad planted the trees. He used to look at the yard and say, if people can't see the mess, they can't complain about the mess. For 30 years he was right. Then Silver Ridge showed up. The development was built on higher ground west of my property. The newest section had 6 large homes marketed as premium Lakeview residences. Stone facades, 3-car garages, outdoor kitchens, huge windows facing the water. The cheapest one sold for just under $1 million. And from every one of them you could see Lake Hartwell. You could also see the tops of my trees. Most owners didn't care. Vanessa Caldwell did. Vanessa was 53 and president of the Silver Ridge H.O.A. She wore a red blazer to almost every board meeting and carried a leather folder thick enough to make everything inside it look official. Vanessa rarely raised her voice at first. She preferred the tone of someone explaining rules to a child. The louder she became, the more likely it was that somebody had just told her no. The first time she approached me, she didn't call my trees trees. She called them vegetation. That should have told me everything. She walked into my yard one Tuesday morning. "Mr. Mercer?" "Jack. I'm Vanessa Caldwell, president of Silver Ridge. I know. We've received several homeowner concerns regarding the vegetation along your western boundary." I looked behind me. "You mean the trees?" "Yes. What about them?" "They're interfering with protected view corridors." "Protected by what?" "Our architectural standards." I stared at her. "Your architectural standards control my trees?" "They protect community sight lines inside Silver Ridge. The views extend beyond Silver Ridge." "I imagine they do." She opened her folder and pulled out a photograph. It had been taken from one of the homes. My pine canopy filled the bottom half. The lake was clearly visible above it. "See? Yes. Residents purchased these properties with lakeview expectations. Then they should speak to whoever made the promise. The trees have grown. Substantially. They tend to do that." Her jaw tightened. "We are asking you to top them." "No. Not remove them, reduce the canopy." "No, the association would pay." "No." She closed the folder. "Why are you being difficult? You came onto my property to tell me your HOA controls trees on land outside your HOA. That's an oversimplification. It's exactly what happened." She stared at me for a few seconds. Then she left. 2 days later I received an email. Request for vegetation recuperation, I replied with 3 sentences. The trees are on my property. My property is not part of Silver Ridge. I do not consent to trimming, topping, or removal. The HOA treasurer, Martin Cole, responded first. Understood. We'll confirm the boundary and recorded rights before further discussion. Vanessa responded 20 minutes later. The association reserves all rights associated with historic maintenance and view preservation. That sentence sounded expensive. It also meant almost nothing. I forwarded the exchange to my attorney, Paul Hensley. He checked the deed. No scenic easement, no vegetation easement, no maintenance easement, no HO covenant. Nothing. Paul sent Silver Ridge a letter stating exactly that. That should have ended it. Instead, Vanessa changed the story. The trees were suddenly a fire hazard, then a storm hazard, then a drainage problem. Then she claimed roots were threatening a retaining wall on HOA property. A county arborist came after someone filed a complaint. He inspected every tree, healthy, stable, no immediate hazard. I asked him, "Can I get that in writing?" He smiled. "Already doing it." I sent the report to Silver Ridge. Martin replied, "Thank you." Vanessa said nothing. For almost a month, the issue went quiet. Then one afternoon, Carol Bennett stopped me at the mailbox. Carol owned one of the 6 Lakeview homes. "Jack, can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Did you agree to selective tree removal?" I looked at her. "No," she frowned. "Vanessa told us the HOA was negotiating a view restoration plan with you." "She told you wrong." Carol hesitated. "We approved $12,000 for it." "For what?" "The view corridor. On my land?" She said the association had maintenance rights. It doesn't. Carol looked back toward Silver Ridge. "Then why did we vote on it?" "That's a good question." That night I checked every camera on my property. Then I photographed the tree line, every trunk, every survey marker, every boundary pin I could locate. I measured distances from the recorded stakes. I saved the arborist report in 3 places. Then I pulled the latest survey out of my safe. It felt excessive. 12 days later it didn't. The next HOA meeting was on a Thursday. Martin invited me. Vanessa clearly hadn't expected that. She stopped speaking when I walked into the clubhouse. "This is a members-only meeting." Martin pointed toward an empty chair. "I invited Jack for the boundary discussion." "Invited him?" "Yes, without asking me. I'm treasurer, Vanessa, not your assistant." A few people laughed. Vanessa didn't. The tree issue came up. She put a map on the project. A shaded strip ran along the edge of my parcel. At the top were the words, "Historic View and Maintenance Area." I raised my hand. "Where did that map come from?" "Our management files." "Is it recorded?" "It reflects long-standing use." "That wasn't my question." Martin looked toward Vanessa. "I asked management the same thing. And they couldn't identify a recorded easement." Vanessa shifted. "That does not eliminate prescriptive rights." I said, "Who maintained my trees?" "The HOA." "No, we have landscaping records. For landscaping on your side of the property line." She pointed at the map. "Residents remember contractors trimming this area. Branches crossing the fence, maybe." "Exactly." "No, not exactly." I put my survey on the table. "My property line is here." I pointed to the boundary. "If branches cross onto your side, you deal with whatever the law allows on your side. You do not cross this line and remove my trees." Vanessa smiled. "No one is proposing that." I looked at her. Good. That sentence mattered, because 12 days later she did exactly that. I left home at 6:30 on a Monday morning. We had a dock installation on the south end of the lake. I returned a little after 2. The first thing I noticed was the sunlight. Too much of it. The western edge of my yard had always been shaded. Now afternoon light poured across the gravel. I slowed the truck, then I saw the stumps. 1, 3, 6, 9, 12 mature pines, gone. Tree service truck was still parked near the fence. Vanessa stood beside it talking to the foreman. I got out. "What happened?" The foreman turned. Vanessa didn't. I walked closer. "Who authorized this?" The foreman pointed at her. "She did." Vanessa folded her arms. "The HOA approved view corridor restoration." "On my land?" "This is the historic maintenance strip." "No, it isn't. The board approved the work." "Did the board approve removing trees outside the Silver Ridge boundary?" Her expression changed slightly. "The boundary is disputed." "No, Vanessa. A disagreement does not move a survey pin." The foreman looked uncomfortable. I turned to him. "Did she tell you the trees belong to me?" He glanced at Vanessa. "She gave us the work area." "Did you verify ownership?" The customer marked the site. Vanessa stepped toward us. "Don't harass the contractor." I looked at her. "You had 12 trees cut down on my property. They were obstructing the community view corridor. They were mine. That remains disputed." "No, it remains inconvenient." The foreman started gathering paperwork. I said, "Before you leave, I need your company information and the work order." Vanessa interrupted. "You do not." The foreman looked at her, then at me. He handed me a business card. "Call the office. They'll send it." "Thank you." Vanessa glared at him. "The HOA is your client." He looked toward the stumps, and those were apparently his trees. Nobody said anything. Vanessa stayed. "You are not turning this into some ridiculous lawsuit. I haven't decided what I'm doing." The association acted in good faith. "You were sitting 10 feet from me when your treasurer said there was no recorded easement." We have legal arguments. You also told everyone nobody was proposing to remove trees from my property. That isn't what I meant. I know exactly what you meant. Then Vanessa looked through the new opening. For the first time, she could see my entire equipment yard. Her expression changed. What is all that? My business. For 23 years. That is visible from Silver Ridge. Now it is. You need screening. I laughed. I had screening. She didn't. She pointed toward a row of dock frames. That cannot remain exposed. Why? It damages the visual character of Silver Ridge. Then maybe you shouldn't have removed the thing hiding it. Vanessa left. I stood there for a long time after she was gone. Those trees mattered to me. My father had planted everyone. He had been dead 4 years. For a moment, I wanted to do something stupid. Put up floodlights, park the ugliest equipment I had against the boundary, order the biggest fence legally possible. But anger is expensive when you let it make decisions. So I didn't touch Silver Ridge property. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten Vanessa. I made 3 phone calls. My attorney, a certified arborist, and the county planning office. That third call changed everything. Because 6 months earlier, before Vanessa ever started talking about lake views, the county had approved my expansion. A steel-sided fabrication building, 120 feet long, 40 feet deep, 20 feet high along the western elevation. And that western elevation faced Silver Ridge. There was only one reason I had not built it. The trees. Honolulu Mercer Marine Works had been growing. We were fabricating larger dock sections and doing more aluminum work. I needed a covered assembly area. The engineer designed a new shop addition. Steel frame, 2 welding bays, material storage, overhead lighting, enough space to build dock sections indoors. The original site plan placed it near the western property line. Perfect for truck access, perfect for drainage, perfect for the business, and terrible for the trees. The building itself would meet setback requirements, but excavation and foundation work would threaten several root systems. I didn't want that. Those trees were not landscaping to me. Dad had planted them with his own hands. So I asked the engineer to study moving the building farther east. He did. The alternate site worked. Barely. It required more grading, a longer electrical run, less efficient truck movement, more money, but it would save most of the tree line. I had not finalized the change. Then Vanessa had 12 trees removed. Suddenly, the original approved footprint was open. I called county planning. My site conditions changed. If I build exactly according to the approved plan, do I need an amendment? The planner pulled the file. Dimensions changing? No. Use changing? No. Drainage? No. Setbacks? No. Then no amendment. What about the western elevation? What about it? 20 feet. That's what the stamped plan shows. Correct. Then build the stamped plan. I thanked him. Then I called my contractor. How soon can you mobilize? 3 weeks. Can you make it 2? He laughed. I'll start calling people. Meanwhile, the arborist documented the damage. The removed trees ranged from 28 to 36 years old, healthy, mature, functioning as visual and noise screening. He documented trunk diameter, condition, species, replacement estimates, and restoration requirements. Paul, my attorney, sent Silver Ridge a preservation notice. Do not destroy records, do not alter maps, do not delete emails. Do not contact contractors for the purpose of changing invoices or work descriptions. That last line became important. The tree company sent me the work order. Authorized by Vanessa Caldwell, HOA President Scope. Remove 12 pine trees to Resticle, Lakeview, not fire mitigation, not safety, not drainage, Lakeview. Vanessa had written the motive down for us. Then Martin called. Jack, I owe you an apology. Were you part of the removal? No. Did the board vote to remove my trees? There was a pause. The board approved money for view corridor maintenance. That's different. Yes. Did you authorize Vanessa to cross the property line? No. Did the board know 12 trees were being removed? No. Then preserve the meeting minutes. Already done. 2 weeks later, construction began. The first day was excavation, then concrete. Silver Ridge barely noticed. On day 3, steel columns arrived. Carol walked over. What are you building? Fabrication shop. How tall? 20 feet. She stared at me. 20? That's the approved elevation. She looked toward her house. Vanessa is going to lose her mind. She can call the county. By the end of the week, the steel frame was visible from every Lakeview house. Then the wall panels arrived. Dark charcoal, matte finish, not reflective, not decorative, not ugly by industrial standards, but definitely not a lake. The panels went up one section at a time, 8 feet, 12, 16, 20, 120 feet long. From my side, it looked like a building. From Silver Ridge, it looked like somebody had lowered a steel curtain across our horizon. Vanessa showed up before lunch. She came fast, red blazer, phone in one hand, a stack of papers in the other. You can't put that there. My contractor looked at me. I climbed off the forklift. Morning, Vanessa. This violates Silver Ridge architectural standards. I'm not in Silver Ridge. It blocks a protected lake view. You have no recorded view easement. This is clearly retaliatory. I walked to my truck and pulled out the stamped county permit. What is that? Building permit. I don't care. You should. You cannot construct a 20-foot barrier just to punish residents. It isn't a barrier. She pointed at the panels. That is a wall. It is the western exterior wall of my permitted fabrication building. You're playing games. I handed her the first page. She looked at the issue date, then looked again. 6 months earlier, before the tree removal, before the HOA vote, before her first conversation with me. Her voice dropped. You already had this permit? Yes. You were going to build this? Yes. And you never told us? Why would I? Because it affects our homes. So did my trees. She looked toward the stumps, then back at the building. You could move it. I considered moving it. Her eyes narrowed. Why? To save the trees. That stopped her. I pointed toward the original footprint. The engineer already drew an alternate location, more expensive, less efficient. I was considering it because I didn't want to kill the root systems. She looked at the steel, then at the stumps. You're saying, I'm saying you solved the problem for me. Her face turned red. We'll stop this. Call planning. I intend to. Good. She spun around and walked away. I called after her. She stopped. You wanted the trees gone. I pointed at the steel wall. Enjoy the view. For a few minutes I thought that was the end of it. I should have known better. Vanessa called planning, then zoning, then code enforcement, then the fire marshal. She filed complaints about height, setback, drainage, commercial use, visual impact, emergency access, possible permit modifications. Every complaint generated a response. That was fine. I had permits. What I didn't expect was a county vehicle arriving while my crew was installing the final wall sections. A code officer named Reynolds stepped out. He walked to the contractor. Who's responsible for the site? I am, I said. He handed me a notice. Construction needs to pause while we verify a complaint regarding deviation from approved height and setback. Behind him on the public road, Vanessa stood beside her SUV watching. For the first time since she cut the trees, she smiled. My contractor looked at me. What do you want to do? Stop. The drills went silent. One worker climbed down. Another set a panel back onto the trailer. Across the road, Vanessa folded her arms. For about 45 minutes, the steel wall stopped rising. And if you had looked at her face, you would have thought the county had just ordered the whole building torn down. Reynolds took measurements. Setback, foundation, column height. He pulled up the stamped plans, then he measured again. Vanessa walked closer. Officer, the approved structure was never supposed to be 20 feet along this boundary. Reynolds looked at the plan. It says 20. The owner changed the design after the vegetation was removed. I said nothing. Reynolds turned a page. Permit issue date was 6 months ago. Vanessa answered quickly. That doesn't mean this elevation was approved. He pointed to the stamped sheet. Western elevation, 20 feet. She stared at it. What about the setback? He checked his measurement. Compliant. Buffer? Compliant. Commercial structure next to residential homes. This parcel has an established lawful use. Vanessa looked at me. This is retaliation. Reynolds shrugged. That's not a code category. Then he looked at my contractor. You can continue. The drills started again. The next panel rose. Vanessa stood there as the wall climbed past her line of sight. I didn't smile. I didn't need to. Then Reynolds handed me a copy of his inspection notes. No violation, no work stoppage, no setback deviation. Approved height confirmed. I put it in the same folder as everything else. Vanessa had tried to stop the wall. Instead, she had given me one more government document proving it was legal. And she wasn't done helping me. Over the next 2 weeks, every complaint produced the same result. Height legal, setback legal, drainage compliant, fire access compliant, use permitted. Then Vanessa emailed Silver Ridge residents. The owner has exploited recent vegetation changes to construct an industrial barrier inconsistent with the historic character of the lakefront. Carol forwarded it to me. Paul responded with 2 words. Keep it. By then, our tree claim had entered formal mediation. And once attorneys started requesting records, Vanessa's real problem surfaced. Not the steel wall, the emails. Hondergrondroster Discovery produced a chain beginning 3 weeks before the trees were removed. The first email came from Martin. We do not have confirmation that the view corridor extends onto Mercer property. Vanessa replied. The trees have been maintained as part of the community view for years. Martin, that does not establish ownership. Wait for counsel. 2 days later, HOA counsel responded. The language was not complicated. Do not authorize tree removal outside the confirmed Silver Ridge boundary without written owner consent. That should have ended everything. 5 days later, Vanessa emailed the tree company. Proceed with the 12 marked pines. H.O.A. authorization attached. No owner consent. No survey confirmation. No attorney approval. Please confirm Silver Ridge owns or controls the work area. Vanessa replied with 1 word. Confirmed. 1 word. That 1 word destroyed almost every version of the story she had told afterward. She could no longer claim nobody asked about ownership. They did. She could not claim she relied on counsel. Counsel told her not to proceed. She could not say 12 trees were removed by accident. The work order said 12. Martin called an emergency meeting. About 40 residents showed up. I sat in the second row. Vanessa opened the meeting. This is about the retaliatory industrial structure Mr. Mercer has erected, Martin interrupted. No, this meeting is about unauthorized tree removal and association liability. They are directly connected. Yes, Martin said, they are. Vanessa looked almost relieved. Then Martin continued, because if the trees were still standing, most residents would barely see the structure. The room went quiet. Carol raised her hand. I live directly across from Jack. Vanessa sighed. Carol, no. I want this on the record. Martin nodded. Carol stood. Before the trees came down, I could not see Jack's equipment yard from my patio. Another homeowner spoke. Same. Another nodded. Us too. Vanessa turned toward them. The trees interfered with the Lakeview residents purchased, Carol said. We already had a Lakeview, not the view represented in sales materials. A man near the back answered. Then that's a developer problem. Exactly. Martin turned on the projector. The first email appeared. Wait for counsel. Then the attorney warning. Do not authorize tree removal. Then Vanessa's message. Then the contractor's question. Does Silver Ridge own or control the work area? Then confirmed. Nobody spoke. The HOA attorney, Susan Blake, sat at the end of the table. She looked at Vanessa. Mrs. Caldwell, I need to ask you a direct question. Vanessa crossed her arms. Fine. After receiving written instruction from counsel not to authorize removal outside the confirmed HOA boundary without owner consent, why did you tell the contractor Silver Ridge controlled Mr. Mercer's land? Vanessa looked at the screen, then at Martin, then at me. The maintenance history supported our position. Susan asked, did you have written owner consent? No. Did you have a recorded scenic or vegetation easement? We believe that was not my question. Vanessa's jaw tightened. No. Did the board authorize you to represent to the contractor that Silver Ridge owned or controlled the work area? Vanessa looked at Martin. Martin said nothing. No. Susan nodded. Thank you. Vanessa immediately turned toward the steel building. And what about what he did? Susan rubbed her forehead. The building permit predates the tree removal. He didn't have to build it. I finally stood. No. Everyone looked at me. I didn't. Vanessa turned. I continued. I was planning to move it. A few people looked confused. I handed Martin a copy of the alternate engineering sketch. He put it on the projector. Dated 7 months earlier. The building had been shifted east. More grading, longer utility run, less efficient truck access. But the tree line remained. I asked my engineer for this because I wanted to preserve the trees my father planted. Carol looked at Vanessa. So if the trees had stayed, I answered carefully, I might have built the alternate plan. Vanessa seized on the word. Might. Yes. I looked at her. I'm not going to exaggerate just because the truth is inconvenient. Then I pointed at the original site plan. But once 12 mature trees were removed, there was no reason for me to spend extra money relocating an already permitted building. Martin stared at the screen for several seconds. Then he said, so the association spent $12,000 to remove the screening that hid the business next door. Nobody answered. He looked toward Vanessa, and by doing that we made the original permitted building easier to construct. Still silence. Carol said quietly, we traded trees for steel. That was the sentence that ended Vanessa. Not legally, not yet, but politically. Everyone in the room understood the entire story at once. Vanessa wanted a cleaner lake view. She ignored the property line, ignored counsel, authorized the cutting, and exposed the exact thing those trees had been hiding for decades. Part 6. The board finally did the math. The vote happened that night. Vanessa was removed as HOA president, 4-1. She voted for herself. Martin became interim president. His first motion suspended discretionary landscaping work along all external property boundaries until every easement and survey had been verified. His second authorized the association's insurer and attorney to negotiate the tree claim. Vanessa called it surrender. Martin called it math. The settlement took another 2 months. I didn't receive some fantasy multi-million-dollar check. Real disputes are usually less dramatic than YouTube thumbnails. The tree company's insurer paid part. The HOA insurer covered part, subject to its policy. Silver Ridge absorbed legal and professional expenses that were not covered. The settlement included documented tree loss, restoration costs, surveying, and related expenses. But the most important sentence wasn't about money. Silver Ridge signed a written acknowledgement that it had no vegetation easement, scenic view easement, or maintenance easement over that section of my property. No historic corridor. No internal map. No future board president could reinterpret it. Permanent boundary markers were installed. Then I asked for one more thing. Trees. Martin looked surprised. You want us to replace them? Where they can grow? I showed him the open ground north of the fabrication shop. I want screening restored. Silver Ridge agreed. We planted native evergreens. They were small. You cannot replace 30 years in one afternoon. But they were a start. The fabrication building was completed on schedule, 20 feet high on the western elevation, 120 feet long, dark charcoal steel. Inside, it was exactly what Mercer Marine Works needed. 2 welding bays, material storage, overhead cranes, covered assembly space. My employees loved it. Silver Ridge didn't, at first. Then something predictable happened. People adapted, curtains went up, a few owners planted landscaping. Carol installed 3 trees near her patio. Another family added a pergola. The lake was still there. The houses were still standing. Nobody's life had ended. They just could not see as much water from a few windows. Vanessa stayed on the board until the next election. She ran again. Her campaign email said she had been punished for defending community standards. She lost badly. Carol forwarded me the email. I wrote back, "Which community standard covers cutting trees you don't own?" Carol responded with a laughing emoji. That was the closest I came to celebrating, because I never wanted to destroy Silver Ridge. I wanted them to understand where their authority ended. At my property line. Part 7, she came back one last time about 6 months after the building was finished. I was loading aluminum rail sections when a white SUV stopped near the road. Vanessa got out. No folder, no blazer, no board members behind her. She stopped near the new boundary marker. I walked over. "What do you need?" She looked past me at the steel building. "You really are leaving that there?" "It's a building." "You know what I mean?" "Yes." She looked toward the newly planted evergreens. "They'll take years to grow." "Yes." "The old trees were taller than the houses." "Yes." For once she didn't argue. Then she said, "I didn't think the contractor would remove all 12. I looked at her. "The work order says 12. "Well, I know what it says, so what did you think 12 meant?" She looked away. There wasn't an answer. After a while, she said, "The homeowners were pressuring me. That doesn't make the trees theirs. I thought the HOA had maintenance rights." "Your attorney told you not to proceed." She looked back at me. "You saw those emails?" "Yes." "Of course you did." We stood there quietly. Then she looked at the building again. "Would you ever paint it?" "It is painted." "You know what I mean. Something lighter." "No." "Green?" "No." "Why?" I looked at the dark steel wall. "Because I like it." For half a second she almost smiled. Then she said, "You enjoy this?" "No." And I meant it. If I could choose between that building and the old trees, I'd still have the trees. She looked surprised. "My father planted them." I pointed toward the shallow depressions where the last stumps had been ground away. "They were here before Silver Ridge." Vanessa didn't say anything. "Before the $1 million houses?" "Nothing. Before anyone decided the view across my land belonged to them." She looked toward the lake. I continued. "You thought those trees were blocking something valuable. Then I looked at the building. But they were also hiding something you didn't want to see." For the first time, I think Vanessa understood the whole thing. Not the legal issue. Not the settlement. The irony. She wanted to see what was behind my trees. Now she could. Every day. She left without another word. And the new trees are taller now. Still nowhere close to the old pines. Maybe someday. My father never saw the fabrication building. He died 4 years before I built it. But I know exactly what he would have said if he had stood beside me the day the first steel panel went up. He would have looked at the wall, then at Silver Ridge, then at me, and he would have asked, "Why didn't you leave the trees?" And I would have answered, "I tried." That is the part people usually miss when they hear this story. They think I built a 20-foot steel wall because I wanted revenge. I didn't. The building existed on paper before Vanessa ever touched those trees. Stamped plans, engineering approval, legal setbacks, a real business purpose. The only reason I considered moving it was because those trees mattered to me. Vanessa made that decision for me. She wanted a better lake view. For about 2 weeks she got one. Blue water, open sky, no pine canopy. Then the first steel column went up, then another, until the thing my father's trees had hidden for 30 years became the only thing Silver Ridge could see. That wasn't revenge. It was consequence. There is a difference. Revenge would have been asking, "What can I build to make Vanessa miserable?" I never asked that. I asked a much simpler question. What am I already legally allowed to build on my own property? The county had answered that question 6 months earlier. 20 feet high, 120 feet long, dark steel siding. Approved. Sometimes the thing blocking your view is doing you a favor. Vanessa learned that too late. She wanted to know what was behind my trees. Now she knows. Every single day.